Okay, so hey guys and welcome back to another Axel72 video, and in today's video I'm going to be giving my prediction for the Galal Yafai versus Francisco Rodriguez Jr. fight. And so if you are new around here and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so, like the video if you do indeed like the video, and let's get straight into this. Actually, before we get straight into it, I wanted to just say that I have started a Patreon. I know it's probably just a shot in the dark, but you know, I thought why not? If anybody is wanting for me to do kind of their own requests of videos, whether that be a prediction of a fight in which I haven't spoken about or done a prediction video for, or a breakdown of anything in particular that's just going on in the space of the combat sporting world at the moment, that doesn't have to just be exclusively boxing. That can be mixed martial arts, that can be bare knuckle, that can be Muay Thai, just anything. If anybody wants any kind of video like that, and also to be shouted out at the beginning of every one of my videos, then you know, feel free. It's only a fiver, you know, any kind of generous money appreciated. But yeah, if not, all good. Just thought I'd mention it. Getting into this though, so for this fight, I mean, Yafai, he's riding the high at the moment, and obviously he's had this momentum for a while now. He's been signed on with Matchroom and he's been progressing very nicely, and he's had a few rocky moments in his career so far, but his his last fight was a highlight moment for his career. I was fortunate enough to be at his last fight against Sonny Edwards, and I was ringside and I saw it live. I saw everything that happened with Sonny Edwards saying that he wasn't really bothered about being in the ring anymore and everything like that. A lot of that stuff happened, and it was happening in the moment. And I remember being very surprised, you know, hearing about all this. And then I went to the press conference afterwards, and hearing the retirement speech from Sonny Edwards was quite an emotional thing, to be completely honest, because you could see how much the whole sport meant to him. And I mean, Yafai did well. He really performed well and did all he had to do to be able to completely nullify Sonny Edwards. But that isn't the Sonny Edwards that everybody knows. And I mean, he knows that, all the fans know that that is not the Sonny Edwards in which was world champion. That isn't the Sonny Edwards that beat Felix Alvarado, or even just the Sonny Edwards that was in there with Jesse Van Rodriguez. It's just not the same guy. And you know, that is obviously the biggest name on his resume so far professionally, Yafai, but again, it's not, I don't think it's setting him up straight away for a world title, even though this is for that WBC interim world flyweight title. Again, like I said, I just don't see it setting him up. I think this fight is, to an extent, quite smart matchmaking, because Rodriguez Jr. is a really tough fighter and has fought some of the best names. Yes, his resume on paper, when you look at the kind of losses that he's had, yes, it's quite a significant amount of defeats. I mean, I think it's 9, but there's some really tough names on there, and he's only ever been stopped against Gonzalez Chocolatito, and that was a Chocolatito that was arguably in his prime, in his best years, fighting and kind of destructively beating everybody that he was in against. And then other than that, I mean, he's fought some really top names. I mean, Nietes is an underrated fighter who has fought at a really high level and has been a really good name as well. But then also Ioka and Nakatani, two Japanese fighters who of course have great legacies in the sport, and arguably, you know, you could stake a case for Rodriguez possibly going out there and even getting a draw in both of them fights, especially the Ioka one. I mean, on multiple occasions, Rodriguez Jr. has been nominated for a Fighter of the Year. You know, he's really somebody that's going to bring the pace, and he's not going to just kind of shy away and, I suppose, to an extent, give up like Sonny Edwards did against Yafai. It's going to be a toe-to-toe type of contest, and so it's definitely dangerous for Yafai. I think, like I say, it's smart matchmaking due to the fact of he needs his tough tests, and he can't be taking too big of a step down. But at the same time, this fight's definitely gonna, you know, progress him along. I think he's gonna probably learn a lot from this fight, and I think this fight, more so than even the Sonny Edwards fight, is going to prove that he is at a world level, to be completely honest. And he's obviously been progressed fast due to his Olympic status and the fact that he was in the amateurs for so long. He's been forced to kind of progress quickly because of course he has that status of the Olympic gold medal. I think he was the last British fighter to do that, but yeah, he's kind of had to result to be moving quickly because he needs to have his best years as a pro quite quickly, I think, because he's not on the older side, but he's not kind of a young 20-year-old coming into the professional game, if you know what I mean. And I mean, he's fighting in Birmingham again. That perhaps may sway some of the scorecards. I mean, of course, like I've touched upon, Rodriguez has been in some close fights with top names, but often they've been out in Japan, and it means that often the Japanese fighter is going to get more so the nod. And due to the fact that Yafai, of course, is fighting in Birmingham here, and he's going to have the fans behind him. I don't know how big of a fan base it will be, because I mean, it's not a massive card. There was some better fights. Well, there was a better fight that was on the undercard in Shabazz Masood versus Peter McGrail, but of course Masood pulled out, so now it's Baluta, which isn't going to get the fans as excited, I don't believe. And so I mean, I don't know how well it's going to sell and how big the Year 5 fan base actually is. I mean, I spoke to Year 5 and he's a really respectable, nice fighter to speak to, and he comes across well. But at the same time, I don't think he's bringing in a crazily big fan base. And so, even if it's in his hometown, I don't know how much that is actually going to influence the judges, but it might do. I think in general, Birmingham boxing, of course, is doing really well. I think Yafai's the one with Ben Whittaker, they're both leading the way at the moment, and I think in that aspect it is doing very well. But again, I don't think this is going to sell like the Ben Whittaker versus Liam Cameron fight did, because that sold really well out in Birmingham. But yeah, like I said, I just don't know if this one will as well. Out of the whole brothers of the Yafais, I do believe that Galal Yafai, and I have always believed that Galal has had this potential superior to the other Yafais. I mean, Gamal Yafai was a European champion, and he fought at a pretty high level for the majority of his career, but then again, tailed off at the end. Same with Khalid Yafai. He fought at a high level. He won a world title, and he had some good noticeable wins. And then again, he trailed off. He had one bad defeat, and then he had one really bad defeat in his last fight against Rodriguez. And then, not this Rodriguez, but yeah, then it just meant that his career ran its course. But I think if Galal Yafai is able to develop and keep improving the way that he is, then he could definitely be better than them and could actually achieve more than them, which, a world title is a very big achievement. But I do believe that, like I say, Galal Yafai has got that potential. Of course, Rodriguez Jr., I mean, he's a former unified world champion himself, down at the minimum weight division. He's definitely fluctuated in the divisions throughout his time. He's fought at the minimum weight, the light flyweight, the flyweight, the super flyweight. Don't think he's ventured into the bantamweight, but again, like I say, there's multiple divisions in which he has fought in, and it's often more so been just due to the opportunities available to him, rather than perhaps him actually wanting to go and fight there, which is perhaps maybe that's why at times he has come unstuck in certain fights. But to speak about them both individually as fighters, Yafai, he's got a high output and he's got a good work rate. He's definitely a come forward fast starter type fighter, and typically that is how he starts most of his fights. I mean, you look at some of his performances. I mean, he started quickly against Edwards, and that's what made Edwards just realise that he didn't want to be in there anymore, because Yafai was overwhelming him early. If you look at a performance like a Tommy Frank performance, which was of course not a world level type of fighter at all, but still, he just Yafai showcased the skill level and showcased that he is way superior than that of a Tommy Frank. But I think he does trail off throughout fights quite often. He didn't really do it too much against Edwards, but when you look at that Edwards performance again, you look at it and you think that Edwards wasn't really offering anything for him to really trail off. So Yafai could literally just do whatever he wanted, and if he trailed off then that would have just been poor. But again, like I say, he didn't trail off in that performance, and he went a few rounds there, so I suppose that's good. But he hasn't really been tested going the full 12-round distance at the highest of levels yet, so it will be interesting to see if this work rate and this punching all over ability will continue. He doesn't load up on his shots, which is nice, and he is typically hard to get off you, but I believe Rodriguez Jr. is the same in that aspect. He works angles well, and I think works angles better than Rodriguez Jr. and distributes his power better than that of Rodriguez Jr. More clean in that aspect. He's not often really squaring up his footwork. It is nicely planted for the most part, and he does his best work, of course, in close. Negatives about him, I think he has got a lack of a jab, and I do think he does get drawn into fights, and I mean, physically he's not the strongest, and if he's getting drawn into a fight against a Rodriguez Jr., then physically he will have problems, and Rodriguez Jr. is typically known for making you fighters fight and kind of forcing these exchanges, and that's where he may come stuck, Yafai. But he he doesn't always take time off, and he does take time off, and he kind of allows his opponents to have their momentum, and he can be too comfortable, especially in range. That's when he gets caught. I think his head movement is minimal. He doesn't necessarily make the right adjustments when needed. His chin can be in the air. I don't think he fights the best on the back foot, so he's going to have to really try and force Rodriguez Jr. to, I don't know, just try and keep him away for as much as possible from what I believe. And he does drop his guard. He starts with a high guard, but the more he's throwing, the more confident he gets, the more comfortable he gets. He drops it and then just kind of doesn't really try and bring it back up again. Rodriguez Jr. is a fighter, like I've touched upon. He's going to make you fight his fights, and of course he's been able to do that on multiple occasions. That's why he's been getting these Fight of the Year contenders, because he's made fighters like Ayoka and even Nakatani, these high level fighters, fight his fight, and that's what can almost make fights close and almost get him a good result. Of course it hasn't really happened so far, but you never know, this might be the one. He makes you kind of forget your jab at the same time. He's got a good chin and a high guard, and he's going to be just continually pressuring. He's definitely proven that he's going to be relentless throughout all the rounds, which, like I say, Yafai hasn't proven yet. He's physical. He's got good power punching ability. It's not crazily good power, but it is good. And I mean, Yafai's got a lot of stoppages on his record, but that's not really one punch type of knockout. It's more relentless barrages of punches, especially early on. He is consistent as well, Rodriguez, which, like I say, perhaps Yafai maybe isn't, and he commits to his shots. He definitely steps into his work nicely. Negatives about him: I think he lunges in the process of him stepping in. His defensive footwork is poor, and he has minimal head movements. He can be definitely countered when coming in. I don't know necessarily how good a counters Yafai has, but he might be able to land whilst he's coming in. I don't think he deals with movers that well. I think Yafai can move, but he just doesn't, and later on in the rounds he gets less and less wanting to kind of maneuver around. He just wants to stand and plant his feet a bit more, and that's just not what's going to be good for him. I think he chases you around, Rodriguez. He can be made to miss, and he can be wild. His accuracy isn't the best, and I think Yafai's accuracy is much more superior. He can be kind of just walking forwards, throwing, which is difficult to be able to counteract, but again, it can be predictable and obvious, and it can leave defensive openings. And he does headhunt a bit at times. Like I said, I don't think he works the angles as nicely as that of a Yafai. Who do I think is going to win? I think that Galal Yafai is going to be able to win via majority decision. I think it is going to be an extremely close fight, like I've touched upon with the fights of Rodriguez at high levels in the past. But I do just believe that Yafai is going to win the early rounds. I think he's probably going to win the first three. Then it's going to get Rodriguez coming into it, and then I think Yafai is probably going to have to flip some sort of a switch. I think he's going to probably win a 6-4, I don't know, maybe a 7-3 type of fight, or a close fight like that. It's going to be a real close fight, and I think again the judges may sway into his favour. I think there's multiple different ways in which Yafai could have the look of the draw, I suppose, and I think he probably will land a maybe cleaner work, and that might help, and that might go into his benefit, but I just don't think he's going to deter Rodriguez at any point, so that's what's going to make it close. Who do I think he could go on to fight next? I mean, I don't think he will be ready, even though he has this interim title, to go straight into a world title fight unless he wins this very convincingly, because of course then he'll have to go on to fight a pound-for-pound star in Taraji, who is a level above, and so I just don't think he's quite ready yet. I think he can possibly hone his skills to be able to, like I say, go on and fight for that title, but it's going to take a few more fights in my opinion. So I think there is a few clear kind of step up opponents to really get a world level test of former champions. Like Akui could be a good fighter, or Kayaguchi. They're two, like I say, former champions who have really been battle tested and are still in the heights of their careers. They've not faded away at all. Or if he's wanting a tough test, I mean, Yankel Rivera has just signed on with Most Valuable Promotions, but he was with Matchroom, so maybe they could sort something out there, and that's two top-rated contenders, with one being, I think, 7 or 8-0, and of course Yafai being 9-0, 10-0 if he wins. That could be a really well-made fight to put them two together, I think that will be a really entertaining contest as well, and I'd be definitely up for seeing that. But yeah, that is it for today's video. Hope you did enjoy. Like the video if you did, like the video, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.